There's something I was reading this week. It's about the origin of the text of the Gospels and criticisms of them by people like Bart Ehrman. Ehrman suggests that the original Gospels were anonymous. So they were originally passing round without the headings, the Gospel according to Matthew and so on. This is not true, because every single Gospel that's come down to us, every single copy from the very earliest contains that title, Gospel according to whoever. And every one that's what we call Matthew's has got the heading of Matthew's Gospel. They're not like, for example, St. Matthew's Gospel sometimes has the heading St. Luke's Gospel.
Yeah.
They're always Matthew, always Mark, always Luke, always John. And there's never a Gospel which lacks that heading. So we can pretty confident that the earliest Christians knew who exactly wrote the particular Gospel.
Yes.
It had its name. And it is also the case that never was there a church father who said, oh, we're not sure about whether Matthew wrote this Gospel or whether Luke or Mark or John wrote this Gospel. They were always absolutely clear as to who wrote the Gospel. So the identity is absolutely clear. And we have no doubt about the Gospels that we have. Then the question is, do the copies that we have, do they reflect the originals? Well, that's pretty certain that they do. Because though we don't have the very original to say it's absolutely certain, we know about how these documents are copied. Ehrman would say, oh well, you had very unprofessional copyists who would just sloppily, copy the text from generation to generation. And they'd be, they'd copy, then it would wear out, and there'd be another copy, and so on. It would go down the generations. Well, there's a Protestant guy, biblical scholar called Craig A. Evans, I think his name is, and he's looked at huge numbers of early manuscripts, and he finds that all of these copies are copied in a very careful way. As you can tell from the handwriting, the style of handwriting, whether they're sloppy or not, and they're very careful. So there's no sloppiness here.
No.
You can get, of course, a copyist who might accidentally jump a line or jump a word because he's tired, but they're nonetheless copying carefully. And we've got these textual variants, but they're very, very few. And the only ones that really matter are whether the ending of Mark 16:9-20 and the appearances of the risen Jesus in St. Mark's Gospel, and in the part of St. John's Gospel, chapter 7:53-8 something, 8:11 I think, which is about the woman taken in adultery who was going to be stoned, and Jesus prevents it. Whether those two belong there, because the woman stoned in adultery section doesn't occur in the earliest copies of John's Gospel, and Mark 16:9-20 does not occur in the earliest copies of Mark's Gospel. Nonetheless, they're very early attestants. The woman taken in adultery appears in different places in John and also in Luke, I think, at one point. But there's no reason to believe these don't go back to Jesus. It's just that one can say, well, we can see these might not belong in the places they are in the Gospels. But other than that, the Gospels are utterly reliable.
And the long ending of Mark, isn't that found in one of the early writings of the Fathers?
Now, it is. This is the thing. The long ending is absent from some and included in others.
Yes.
And looking at the style of it, it seems that it doesn't conform with the style of the rest of Mark's Gospel. So it may have been added on later because people thought, well, why does the Gospel end where it does? Maybe the end of the Gospel, the original ending was lost. We don't know. But it doesn't matter.
No.
It doesn't matter particularly. It's doctrinal statements are just fine.